Hey there, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Friday. I want to welcome you to our episode today for Positive Tea with Fee, entitled It's Okay to Not Be Okay. Okay. Um, I hope everybody is doing well. As usual, I definitely want to thank you for supporting the channel and for being here with me. I know the new time works very well for some and not for others. So those of you who are tuning in right now, thank you so much for your support. I enjoy seeing you here live. But those of you who are watching on replay, I want to thank you as well. For those of you who don't know, I am Pastor Felicia Collins Brogy. I am pastor, life coach, and friend, and I want to welcome you guys here. Let's get right into it. So, the reason that I thought it was very, very necessary to speak of this topic is because a lot of us in our goals, in our dreams, in our everyday lives, um, are not okay. Going through hard times, dealing with depression, grief, loss, and despair. And this is something that is not talked about enough, but I'm going to be one of those that talks about it. The first thing we want to talk about is what it means to not be okay. What it means to not be okay, of course, that's an individual thing. But when I say not being okay, um, this is mainly centered around you not feeling like yourself, okay? You dealing with something. This is not necessarily a moment thing, but it's also not necessarily a long span thing, okay? But when I say not being okay, being in a state where you don't feel like you, being in a state where you don't have the motivation, the drive, and the consciousness to go after your goals and your purpose as you normally would. Even to the point sometimes of not being able to do your everyday things, the activities that we usually enjoy. Okay. Talking to friends on the phone, watching TV, reading books, the usual things that you do, the routine, even something as simplistic as getting up, brushing your teeth, having breakfast, preparing meals. Getting to that place starts from feeling like you can't do it or not having the motivation or the want to do it. There are individuals out there who are suffering in silence, and they're suffering in silence because they don't know where to turn. And so I feel that it is my obligation to let you know I have been in a place where I have not been okay. Okay. On the 19th, it would be a year that my mom has passed away. I have talked to you guys late last year and also some here on the channel about how that nearly destroyed me and how I had to literally step by step pull myself out of that situation. I had support. I had people around me. I had individuals checking on me. I had family members investing in my personal care, knowing that, bringing a meal over or sending DoorDash over made all the difference. Okay. Or just sending a text to ask how I was doing, all those things. There are people who don't have those things. And so it is our obligation to try to see the signs. If there's someone that you're used to hearing from throughout a certain period of the day or the week, and suddenly they go absent, try to find out what's going on with them. We all like our alone time. We all have things that come up. We all have priorities that change, absolutely positively. But when someone's routine changes regularly, it becomes a pattern. Okay. This could be something physical. This could be something mental. This could be something emotional. This could be something spiritual. Check on your people. Okay. Check on your people. Sometimes we assume that that person doesn't want to be bothered right now, or they're busy, or we don't want to intrude. I would rather, if there's a person who we feel is not present, okay, and this is a routine, I personally have made it my mission in 2024 to bother that person, okay? Bother them anyway. Remember, Pastor Felicia said, bother them anyway. Yes, it is very good for us to give people space. Okay. It is very good for us to understand that we don't have to have our friends in our back pocket 24/7. Okay. It is okay for me to understand that people that I, deal with, mentor, encourage, don't always want to hear from me. They have their own lives. But when it becomes a pattern of not hearing from a person, or a pattern of them not being present, they may not be okay. And we need to reach out to them, number one. Number two, listen, do more listening than talking. And number three, if we by some chance find out that they are not okay, either by their words, actions, or because they specifically just say they're not okay, we need to let them know. The first thing we need to do is let them know that it's okay to not be okay. In that moment, they need to know that whatever they're going through is not about us, it's about them. In that moment, they need to know that it's okay to not always be in purpose mode, always be in goal oriented mode. Okay. We talk a lot about progression and purpose. I know I do. But part of enhancing positivity is understanding that sometimes we don't want to be positive. Okay. Sometimes we don't want to be in a mode of anything. And sometimes we just can't do what we know to do. Normalize letting people know that that is okay. So it's recognizing it in ourselves, recognizing it in others. And what's most important is letting them know it's okay. How do we do that for the long term? Let's talk about that. For a person who is suffering from a long term situation, a chronic situation, if you will, or something that they just can't really get a grip on, okay? It can be very, very tiring and draining to the people around you to have to constantly be there, okay? For yourself, it can be draining to have to need someone. But think about this: empathy needs to be driven. Always think of the fact that whatever this person is going through, by the grace of God, it's not you. And I say that because I've been on both sides of that. I've been on both sides of the, oh, well, Felicia's still not, um, acting like herself, or, she still doesn't want to go out. She's not answering my calls, my text messages. And I've also been on the side having the friend who it seems like they're always going through something, not being negative, not being mean, not being, a person who's being rude or anything like that, just simply someone not being themselves. So what I decided to do is put myself in that person's position. Okay. There are loved ones of mine, some who have passed on, some who are still here, who suffer from chronic depression. And depression looks like so many different things, but like we've talked about before, Depression looks like loneliness sometimes when you're in a room full of people. And you don't want to be that person to be next to that person, knowing that they're dealing with that and going through that and making them feel like it's not okay and that they don't have anybody. What I do and what you do to get through not being okay may look completely different to another person. And to be loving and understanding means that we are going to practice that golden rule. Okay. Matthew 7:12. Okay. If you're a Christian, Matthew 7:12. It's in the Bible if you hadn't tore it out. Okay. Or the golden rule, whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe is the moral compass for putting yourself in someone else's position and treating them the way you treat them, that one person that's getting on your nerves because they're not talking or they don't want to be bothered, or you can't figure out what's wrong with them again this week, you and your smile, your love, your encouragement, your holding your tongue, your waiting your turn to speak, or just listening and not speaking at all could be the difference between them being awake the next day and alive the next day, or going home and putting a gun to their head. There are so many people suffering in silence. There are so many people who don't want to go to therapy. There are so many people who don't know where to turn, or they do know where to turn and they're still not getting what they need because they are in fear of being judged. They're in fear of not being enough. They're in fear of not saying the right thing, doing the right thing, or doing whatever society or community feels like is okay. And that's not okay, because it is okay to not be okay. Whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's a child, whether it's a doctor who is responsible for everybody, whether it is a spiritual leader who has 50 million messages most days and one day they just can't answer them because they're dealing with their own storms. It doesn't matter. For all of us, it's okay to not be okay. Even Jesus wept. Smallest scripture in the Bible, meaning so much. When he was in human form, even he wept, even he was in despair. We have to stop sending the message that you have to be as strong as steel, unbreakable, and invincible, when we, at the end of the day, are only human. I am not ashamed of anything that I've ever dealt with, because it's made me strong enough to be able to testify to you today and let you know there have been times where I have not been okay. And I've been okay with not being okay because I knew the alternative. Now, it wasn't easy, but I was able to take a step back from outreach. I was able to take a step back from ministry. I was able to take a step back from the social scene. I was able to take a step back from friends and some family because I wasn't okay. But you know what kept me going more than anything? Prayer. Okay. First and foremost, because you can talk to him about anything and he's always there. But knowing that there were people who were still reaching out to me, although I wasn't reaching out to them. You know, you have people who are like, I'm not going to talk to her until she reaches out to me. Okay. And I know who those people are. I know who they are. I'm not going to say anything to her because she's not saying anything to me. Okay. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying that I know who those people are and they have their separate reasons. But there are also the people who could be running a Fortune 500 companies, 5 or 6 jobs, wearing 10 hats. And they take out the time to say, I'm just checking on you. Or I wanted to just say, I love you. I know who those people are. And I don't ever forget the fact that they did those things. And I also keep in mind that when I'm on the other side of that coin and I know I have someone around me who is not quite themselves, and it may get on my nerves because I miss them or I may not know what to say. Sometimes just a few words makes all the difference. Sometimes when they're talking, you don't need to say anything. Just reach out. and it makes all the difference. So I want to be that person to make all the difference in somebody else's life. I want to be that person that reminds you by my actions, by my words or lack thereof while I'm listening, covering you in prayer, sending you love messages in the atmosphere and all the positive energy to let you know that it's okay to not be okay. You're still loved. You're still worthy. You're still going to be able to get up. And when you're ready to get up, I'm still going to be here for you. When you're ready to get up, I'm still going to be rooting for you. I'm going to let you know I missed you, but I understand. I'm going to let you know that I know you're going to get tired of you sometimes. Sometimes you're going to get tired of you. You're going to get tired of the aches and pains and the depression and the discouragement and the downheartedness. And you're going to get to the point where you're like, you know what? I'm not going to let this get me down. But until you are there, until you are ready to come out of that place, until you have the strength, until you have the understanding, until you have the motivation, the energy, and the know how to get out of that place, I'm there for you. I'm here to tell you it's okay to not be okay. And lastly, I want us to normalize not looking at professionals, not looking at mentors, not looking at spiritual leaders, the leaders in the community, or our parents or grandparents or someone we've already looked up to as anything other than human. They may even be superhuman, okay? But let's normalize understanding that they have times too where they are not okay. And it's not okay for us to make them feel like it's not okay to not be okay, because it's okay for them not to be okay. The rocks of Gibraltar that we rely on, the people that we feel are so strong, they are still strong. They are still bad to the bone. They are still individuals who can thrive. They are still people that we know have been there. They are still people who have a testimony. They are still individuals who teach. They are still individuals who help. They are no less the leader or the professional that they were just because they have times when they're not okay. We have got to stop looking at people as individuals who cannot have a down day, who cannot go through depression, who cannot get discouraged. They are human too. And sometimes people are just walking in their purpose, and we put them on these pedestals of individuals and we put them in areas where we expect them to drop every single thing and be there for us because they've been there and they'll keep being there. But they still have times where they can't. They still have times where they need to be checked on. You know, I remember when a well-known comedian and actor, Robin Williams, committed suicide. And I remember just being so distraught and just not really getting it. But one thing I learned from that is a lot of people, and this is spiritual leaders, this is celebrities, this is a message for professionals in the community, teachers, doctors, lawyers, you know, politicians, people who may seem to have it all together, who do so much for others, okay? Parents included, grandparents included, and they put on a brave face for others. They show up over and over again for others. They mean so much to others, okay? They're in so many stories of others, you know, whether it's making people laugh or educating people or having a huge part in someone following their own dreams, following their own path. But a lot of times we start to expect that so much because that's what they show to the world. We forget they still have their own struggles and their own lives. TD Jakes is another one. He has really pioneered for women preachers. He's pioneered for his family, for his community in acting, in spirituality. And this, of course, is not up for debate because everybody, is welcome to their own opinion. But the point that I'm making is there are a lot of people who rely on him for so much over the years. You know what I'm saying? In and outside of ministry, in and outside of family. But with the scandals and things that he and his family have been through, you know, it may just be that sometimes people expect individuals in these positions, entertainers included, to do what they've always done. And in the meantime, not have any downtime, not have any, emotional backlash from scandals or from their name being scrutinized. Robin Williams, he actually had dementia and Alzheimer's. He had some personal struggles he was dealing with. And maybe there were some people who knew that were in his inner circle, but it wasn't something that came out until after he took his own life. And now he's used as a spokesperson for people who may appear to be okay, but they're not okay. And we have to take a little bit of responsibility for that. Not saying that anyone is responsible, for anyone taking their own life. Okay. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying as a society, we have to start understanding that a lot of people that we look up to who do a lot, who say a lot, and who are responsible for the success of many, even by just being present or the story that they have, the role they have in society to inspire, they are still human beings who have their own struggles that they're dealing with. And we don't know what those deep-seated demons are. We don't know what they're able to handle versus what they're not able to handle. So let's stop idolizing people to the point where what they do and say looks like something that is anything other than just what it is, because we don't really know what they're dealing with. We don't really know behind closed doors what their biggest fear is unless they share it with us. And even then, that's what they choose to share with us. And so the point I'm making is that a lot of times we put people in a place that it's really unfair to them, because no matter what they are to us and whatever they've done for us, it's still not okay for us to measure them by an unrealistic measuring stick. It's not okay for us to expect them to keep going and keep going like the Energizer Bunny, never have downtime, never have times where they don't feel good, never have times where they can't be there for us. And when we reach out, we're putting that responsibility on them in an unreasonable fashion. If they're there, they're ready. Everybody's purpose is different. Obviously, if someone is a doctor, they have a responsibility towards their patients. If someone is a pastor, they have a responsibility towards their sheep. Okay. If someone is a teacher, they have a responsibility towards their students. If someone is a comedian, they have a responsibility toward whoever follows them. Okay. Because that's what they signed up for. I'm not saying that that responsibility is negated, none whatsoever. Don't take that wrong. I am the poster child for us walking in our purpose and understanding the responsibility that came with it. What I am saying is that we as human beings have the responsibility to keep in mind, understand, and obligate ourselves to remember in every single moment you are dealing with a human being that put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do. And if they don't drink enough water, they're going to get dehydrated, just like me and you. They bleed red, just like me and you. And no matter how much money they make, or no matter how much education they have, or how many times they've been there for you where you've called them, they still need someone to be there for them. Henceforth, while a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists, they also have a therapist, a psychiatrist, or a psychiatrist. The doctor has a doctor. The dentist has a dentist. The teacher has a teacher. The pastor has a pastor. I'm a pastor and I have a pastor. Okay. And she's a bishop. Okay. And the list goes on and on and on. We have to remember that we're all in this together. We're all on this walk. We may not always get it right. There's going to be twists and turns, but everybody on this road is entitled to be human and is entitled and subject to, at any moment, not being okay, being depressed, being discouraged, being overwhelmed. All those things that we deal with, so do they. And by remembering that very simple, the golden rule, okay, treating others the way you'd like to be treated, we have to keep that consciousness in our minds at all times. It's the only way to fairly assess other human beings, even the ones that are strong, and they're still strong. It doesn't make them any less strong because they have downtime. I definitely don't feel myself any less strong because I have downtimes. Now, when I'm in those moments, of course, I'm not going to feel as strong, because that's part of not being okay in that moment. But when I'm able to catch my breath and come to, I still feel like the same, bad to the bone, positive, scouting, loud, giddy individual that I always have. And I recognized that during that time, I just needed a little bit more prayer or a little bit more encouragement or a little bit more space or a little bit more rest or a little bit more downtime or a little bit more ice water and a little bit more spa and a little bit more me time. And it's okay. And it's the same with those individuals. Okay. And like Maya Angelou said, you know better. When you know better, you do better. So let's do better. Let's normalize knowing that it's okay not to be okay for me, for you, for the people we rely on, and we're going to have a better world. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode of Positive Tea with Fee. I'll see you again next week, same time, same place, Friday, 1 o'clock p.m., our new time. Love you so much. Thanks for the support. Have a